Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. When I started this podcast in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women business owners, creatives, and entrepreneurs. In each episode, my guests provide resources, valuable tips, and inspiration. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strength to achieve success on their own terms. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm so glad that you could join us today. And I'm going to introduce my guest, Ann Baksh Lorray. And she's a manager with one of the top 5 banks in Canada with over 25 years experience in the financial industry and 10 years as a financial advisor. Ann's goal is to educate and empower others. As a people and thought leader, Ann's passion is advocating for others, specifically women and children. And along with her husband, she's founder of a nonprofit organization, Live To The Fullest, providing mentorship programs and services to individuals who want to improve their lives but may not know where to start or just need assistance to learn and develop strategies for success. So welcome to the show, Ann.
Thank you, Deb. I'm happy to be here.
Before we get started, because we're going to discuss financial literacy, which is always a very important topic. Before we get started with that, if you could please share how you got started in the work that you do.
So I think it comes from part and parcel my financial background, my work experience. Working in the bank and starting as a financial advisor in the branches and dealing with clients who had different financial situations when they sat in front of me at all different levels, whether they were financially stable or looking for consolidations because they were heavily in debt or refinances, just broad, and even investment. I found that the advice that I was giving to them was also teaching me. And I had some situations which, stuck with me over the years. There were, individuals who came to me because of a breakdown in a relationship, or they were suddenly widowed. And it was the spouse or the partner that was the one who handled all of the finances. And now this individual was in front of me who had absolutely no idea about banking or even the basics of financial literacy. And they were in tears and they just felt completely lost and seeking advice. And I realized that after so many years of working for a bank, we sometimes take it for granted that the terminology or the knowledge that we have as financial persons, we take that for granted that others may just know that. You may know a simple, you should know what this term means, or, you should know what debit and credit means, or what a credit card is all about. We take that for granted. So it really opened my eyes, and I realized that there was a lot of need in that respect. But then also it's my own personal journey. And I think why it's a little bit unique for me is that I myself personally have had my own financial struggles. You would think, as somebody who worked in a bank in the financial industry for so many years, that I had it all together. At one point, I really did. I was married young and I had my children young. I bought my first house when I was in my early 20s. But unfortunate circumstances happened. My husband at the time was in a car accident. He was also very abusive. So myself and my children are survivors of domestic violence. And we found ourselves, myself and my children, having to leave that relationship. I left that marriage with my children, and now I became a single mother of 4 children on a sole income, supporting my kids. So there was a moment when I had it all, and then a time when I was really, really struggling. And going through that process and through that journey, it was through the help of others that I was able to tap into resources, and just from speaking to others and others telling me things, guiding me and supporting me, that I really found and opened my eyes to realize that there are others who really need help. And so, and then also having that financial knowledge as well, I think is what helped me to survive, basically, because I was able to make some smart financial decisions along the way that really helped put me, get me back on my feet. So that's kind of why I decided to, I really, want to advocate and share financial literacy, financial information. But why I also started the nonprofit organization is to help those who are in need and just full circle help wherever they need it.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to do that and to come through everything. Because, a lot of times that's what keeps people stuck if they don't have the means to get themselves out of situations, or they don't know how. They don't have people who could advise them. So to be able to have those things is so, so important. And then, taking your knowledge and experience and helping others, it's really, so, so important as well. That's really, yeah.
Yeah, that's
You know,
exactly it. Yeah, there were moments where I had to really think and, really think back and reflect and say, okay, well, what would I, as a client and sitting in front of me, what advice would I have given them? Or just because of
Mhm.
certain knowledge that I had about budgeting and things like that. Okay, this is now where I really gotta, keep things tight in terms of expenses and, with the income that I now have, just this one income, and how do I make things work? How do I survive and support these kids?
Mhm.
So, not everybody has that guidance. And that's why it's so important to even know the basics to make those smart decisions.
Yes, that's very true. Um, so yeah, so let's, get into the topic. So, as far as your experience and how you work with people, what would you say are some of the, principles of uh being financially literate and being able to take care of these things?
Yeah. So, in the workshop that I had recently done or that I am doing through my nonprofit organization, and also recently at the Meet the Motivators event, I broke down the principles. So there really is, I would say, four key principles. The first one is savings and investments. The second one is spending. So understanding smart spending habits and understanding what your own individual money personality is. Not a lot of people know that they have a money personality, but that helps to identify how we spend. The third one is borrowing. So understanding the types of borrowing products that are out there and available to consumers, how they work, the differences, the pros and cons of borrowing products, but also taking a look at credit score and how does that affect, what's the importance of that and how does that affect us. And then the fourth principle I would say is protect, because we work so hard for our money. Fraud is very prevalent these days. There's a huge percentage of fraud out there. It's billions of dollars of credit card fraud and online fraud. And so learning having the knowledge of fraud, of being able to prevent fraud or protecting yourself from fraud is another key principle of financial literacy.
And that certainly makes sense because there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration um, out here today. And yeah, definitely the fraud and all the things online, which seem to make it so much easier for people.
Oh, yeah. And I can
Yeah.
tell you that fraud, it's a full-time job for these scammers, for
Mhm.
this is what they do. I have seen things as simple as liquid that can be dropped on a check and it erases the ink, the typing on a check.
Oh my
And it can
goodness.
be, yeah, it can be retyped. Or, stolen checks. I've seen stolen checks. I've seen fake money. And even just, I'll give you an example. So there was a 16-year-old who attended a birthday party, met somebody there, and the guy said, "Hey, take this $10,000 check, open a bank account, deposit it, and I'll give you a cut of that once the check clears." And it turns out it was a fraudulent check. And the 16-year-old who was in need of money, ended up, following through on the instructions, but he ended up getting caught and ended up with a police record and was arrested, all because of a fraudulent check. So very innocently doing that and not realizing the consequences of that. So it can be simple things like that too, right? It's really important to know and understand.
Right. Oh, that's true. Because the average person may not even know that these things are going on, or
Right.
just, be very trusting.
Very
Um,
trusting. And we have so many things on our phone. Like I know myself personally, my life is on my phone.
mhm,
And,
mhm.
a lot of things we do is through media or, even by text. Everything a lot, a majority of what we do is digital. So texting and messaging. And I'm sure there's a number of people, and I've heard this from feedback, is, those CRA scam texts that come through, and clicking on links, those can hack the phone and access personal information that's on the phone. So, those are things that I cover. And I think those are really important aspects that we need to understand when it comes to preventing, like the very simple rules of protecting your money and just being mindful of fraud.
Yeah, because these are things you wouldn't even think about as being,
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
being even possible because you just aren't thinking that way. But
Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
Absolutely. My husband got a text just yesterday. It's so funny. He was out and he got a text and he screenshotted and sent it to me and he said, "Is this fake?" And it was a CRA text saying there's money to be deposited into your account. And I said, "Do not click on that link." I said, "That's fraud."
Oh no. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and especially around these times when, income taxes have been filed and we may be expecting money direct deposited into an account, or whether it's around the time when a GST credit's coming in, right? That's when we would think, oh, this might be a legitimate text, but the
Mhm.
CRA will never text you. They'll email if you signed up for online email, or you will get something in the mail. It will never be a text.
Okay. Okay. And that's something people should be aware of as well.
Right.
How, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. So those are, simple
mhm.
things that, it can teach, that's teachable. And just, to make us more aware, and we can prevent fraud from happening, right? Because
Mhm.
like I said, we work so hard for our money and we want to be able to hold on to it. The banks do have a policy where if money has been taken out of an account or a fraud has occurred, consumers can report it and an investigation is completed. And once it's determined that that client was not liable, they will get the money back.
Mm.
So consumers are protected that way, and it's good for consumers to know that.
Mhm.
But again, we want to try to avoid that from happening in the first place.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. It's better just not to have to go through that. Um,
Mhm.
but when people are really wanting to understand more about, these financial issues, how do you recommend that they get started?
Do you, in terms of financial literacy itself?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think, yeah, as if, and, relating to your principles, because I think a lot of times people may feel overwhelmed about, well, how do I even get started? Where would I even find this information or how would I learn these things?
Yeah. So the first thing is, don't be afraid to ask.
Mhm.
If there's something that you don't know or you feel you're not aware of, it's always good to meet with somebody and sit down, whether it is an advisor, whether it's somebody like myself who has that experience and does this on the side. It's really important to just ask. And I think what it is to start with those basics. What are the basic principles of savings? And let's break it down and let's go through it step by step.
Mhm.
um, what are the savings of, and you know what, to be quite honest with you, Deb, there's a lot of information on the internet as well.
Mhm.
And the banks also have a lot of tools that consumers can use. So
Mhm.
whether it's opening a bank account and doing a comparison of the type of account that you may need, or what are your requirements, what are your needs, You can go in and do an account comparison tool and figure out, what your daily spending is or your monthly spend is. How much are you paying bills? What type of transactions do you do? Are you looking for an account that earns interest? And you can find those tools online, and those can help as well. So there's a lot of information on there. However, it can be very overwhelming. So reaching out to someone such as myself, where I can sit down and on a one-on-one basis and go over, what is it that that individual needs? What are their particular needs? I can break it down, make it nice and easy for them, Right, because the terminology just goes over our head. So, we need somebody who we can actually sit down with and who can break it down step by step. So understanding those basics, understanding what are the basics of an account, how it works, what offerings are out there, what suits an individual's needs, what are the types of investments. There's a wealth of information on that. How do we invest our money? How do we grow our money? So that's where we start. And then we can also look at the spend. Then we take it step by step like that.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Because at least it breaks it down into manageable things that you can do.
Right. Yeah, just categorizing it like that. And I have had the opportunity to sit down with clients through my nonprofit organization. I have had some mothers and some families that are actually looking for just budgeting. And they just want to get a better understanding of where they're spending their money versus what they're earning. And, I had an individual and she had a credit card she wanted to pay off, but she didn't really understand how the interest worked on that. And she wanted to be able to pay it off monthly. And she didn't realize that paying $100 a month on a credit card is not going to cut it. You have to factor in the interest that's accruing on that balance. So, it's little things like that come out of a conversation where, we learn new things and we can learn strategies.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of times people don't realize what they would have to do to pay off that debt. And I think, a lot of times, we're not being exactly encouraged to do that, because it always seems like there's something else to buy or something else that we're being told that we should be buying.
Exactly. And money affects our life. It allows us to meet our basic needs, right? We use money to pay for food and shelter, and money's an essential. That's the key. It's an essential. And if we don't have enough money to support ourselves, it affects our personal well-being. And we suffer from that. We've seen individuals who have sunk into depression because of that. And that's where, that really sits with me. It doesn't sit well with me. I really want to see others succeed. And just because of my personal journey and where I've been, I want to be able to help others. I want to see them succeed, whether it's financially or personally. And so I feel like sharing this information is so important, and understanding that when you understand it, you can make those decisions, sound financial decisions, we can get ahead. And we can always do better for ourselves.
And that sounds great, because that's definitely great advice for people who really don't feel like they have control over those things.
Exactly. Yeah. So knowing how to budget and how to spend and save is what helps us to reach our financial goals or get out of debt or even to build our savings. Just having that knowledge.
So do you want to share more about your, your business and these other things that you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So I initially started with my husband, as you mentioned earlier. We created a nonprofit organization called To The Fullest. And that came out of, again, my own personal journey and just wanting to advocate for women and children. My husband had a focus on the homeless. That's where his passion is helping the homeless. So what we decided to do was join forces And we decided to create this nonprofit organization. So,
Mm-hmm.
what I do from a financial aspect is anybody, and it doesn't have to be women, or youth. I do sit with individuals, all individuals across the board, anybody who's looking for financial information, whether they're just looking to get a better understanding, they're looking to become more financial literate, or they're looking for, just to really, it may just be the budget, or it might just be, how do I invest my money? Just the simple basics, or even a little bit more of an in-depth conversation. That's what I do. But we also do personal development workshops. So in terms of mentoring and coaching and providing that encouragement, motivation, communication skill builds. So relationship and communication are things we do. It's a full circle, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband also, he's a small business owner. So he does career and business development workshops through the nonprofit organization, and everything is free of cost. We don't charge anything for that. It's just imparting knowledge and coaching, like I said, and mentoring. And we have recently, over the winter time, we were in contact with some newcomers to Canada. We do get food and clothing donations. So we did provide some families new to Canada with winter clothing, boots, things like that. And we've also done homeless outreach. We provided sleeping bags to the homeless. We have a lot of resources that we provide. So that's one of our other programs. So if looking for a resource, whether it's for food bank or looking to connect with somebody in terms of, maybe development, small business development or coaching, we would provide those resources to them.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Right.
yeah. And then what's recently come out of that is we've started a business called Excel No Excuses. And for that
Mhm.
one, it's a little bit more streamlined. So my husband, we call him Mark. His name is Mark. We call him the No Excuses Coach. And our mission is to change that excuse mindset, right? Because sometimes when we're going through a difficult time, we think we're alone, and we
Mhm.
feel like, it's only us that's going through this. There's nobody else out there. We really do feel alone. But, and I can't do it, or we get into that negative thinking. So what we're trying to do with the business is we're motivating others, encouraging them how to, find gratitude in the little things, maintain that positive mindset. We want that no excuse mindset, that you can do it, you can do anything. And we
Mhm.
want to be able to empower others. That's what we're doing with the Excel No Excuses business.
Mm. That sounds really exciting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We just recently kicked off the business. So we have had a few clients so far, and I have to say very successful. So we have two clients actually that currently have small businesses themselves and looking to grow their business. So my husband and myself, we're working with them in terms of marketing, and how do you, improve on your branding, and
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And how do you grow? How do you market? So that's what we're working on with them.
Mhm. Well, those are definitely important things um, for small businesses to know, in order for them to be successful. And I would think that also people going into business may definitely need more information regarding their financial literacy, because I would think that a lot of times, particularly if someone is maybe coming from a background where they've worked for other people, or maybe they haven't been presented with these financial literacy principles, that this might be something kind of new for them. They go,
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you something, Deb. So also, I've worked as a financial advisor in the branches or in the bank, but I've also had the opportunity and the benefit of working in other different business lines. And one business line that I worked in was small business collections. And I worked in small business collections during the pandemic. And I can tell you that it is so heartbreaking, because we know business business owners have invested their life into their business, their savings, their life savings into their businesses. And then when we were hit with the pandemic, we were seeing businesses closing, and it is so heartbreaking. So really what we want to do is, we had fortunate enough, there are some businesses that did survive, and there are others that didn't. But again, we have new startups that are coming, and we really just want to help those, help business owners to grow, because we do understand that you're investing your life into your business. And so how do you sustain that business going forward, right? So even if we were hit with, another impactful event, how can you survive that? Right? Yeah. We have to recognize that, we put our small business owners and businesses all around, they put so much work and effort, and they invest so much to keep their businesses running. So, we want to be able to give back to them in this way.
Right. And that's definitely something that people need to know more of, because, I think a lot of times people may go into business and really not have that background, or they have an idea of what they think may be required of them when it comes down to their financials and things like that. But they just may not have any idea, because it's not something they've had to work with.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just even an idea. But yes, going back to that, Deb, so you, as you said, they may not understand the business. Small business can be quite different from an individual financial perspective. The budgeting is different with a small business. You need to have a business plan, business statements, how to understand how to read those business accounts and the fees that come with that, and all of that. That's totally different than it is for an individual or a retail type of product. So that's where, yes, there's some guidance that may be needed. Individuals may need that. They may need to get a better understanding of how it works on the business side of things. And so again, having that financial background and understanding and working in the small business realm as well allows me to be able to share that information. And then my husband, of course, being a small business owner who started with 22 cents in his bank account and then grew his business to be successful for many, many years, over 15 years now. This is where we can impart that knowledge and help provide that guidance and support that others need.
Right. Yeah. And since you have, had these experiences, then you can really tell people how they can manage them, from your own experience, as opposed to, maybe people saying something that they have never experienced. And you would be able to tell them based on what you've done and accomplished.
Exactly. And I think, that's what's key. That's why I say my story is unique, because I could be anybody. Anybody could stand in front of a room of people or sit down one-on-one with someone and say, these are the principles. These are, this is what finance looks like, or this is what you need to do, right? But the difference with me is that I have been through it. I have been through that struggle. I have had it all, and I've had nothing. I faced foreclosure when my husband had his car accident, so I know what it is. I understand that struggle, and I know it can be difficult. And then that's where that I can relate on a personal level. And I can really sit down and understand what's happening, because my lens is different. My perspective is different with this. I'm not just sharing that financial information. I'm sharing it from a personal level where I've experienced this struggle myself.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it really, really impactful, because you have, so you can speak from that place.
Yeah.
To people who are, going through their own struggles.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because we can read anything. We can read any books that are out there. We can look at stuff that's online, and nothing is wrong with that. That's great to do that. That's how we gain knowledge.
Right.
And having that one-on-one experience of sitting down with somebody who can really deeply understand what's happening, such as myself, is where, I want to be able to provide that and share that information. I think it's important for others to hear that they are not alone. You know, they have maybe going through a struggle that somebody else has been through.
Yes.
Sometimes we need to hear that, right? I'm not alone. And I found that too, going through my journey. I was at one point, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to share it. But I'm finding that not only does it empower me and it makes me stronger by sharing, but I'm also finding that it is motivating and it is empowering others when they hear that story, because they realize, you know what, it may not be just me. Somebody else has been through this. Somebody else understands my situation. Yeah, and they get a deeper, the knowledge that's shared with them has more deeper meaning to them.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely. So Sue-Ann, can you please share with the listeners where they can find you and find out more about you?
Yes, definitely. So I am on Instagram at Suann Lorray, SUEANN I'm also on Facebook under Ann Baksh Lorray. And then my email is suannlorray@gmail.com.
So then they can find out about all your activities, because you're very busy.
Yes, I like to stay busy.
Well, sounds like you certainly are.
Yeah, but yeah, to the listeners, I just want everybody to know that I am here. I'm here to help. I'm here to support. I'm here to guide. I'm here to empower and motivate. We can do it together. Anything is possible. That's not just words that I'm saying. It is a fact, because I've been there. I've walked it. And reach out to me if there's a question that you have, whether it's a general question. There's no question that should be left unturned. Ask anything. Don't be afraid to ask. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that arise. Always happy to help.
Well, that's terrific, because that's another interesting point, that most people will be afraid to ask those questions, because they're maybe afraid to reveal what they don't know, because they think it looks bad. Sometimes there's a shame around money, not having it, or for some people maybe it's having it, feeling like they feel ashamed for some reason or another. So there's a lot tied up with.
Yeah, it really does impact us in many, many ways. And yeah, there's, like you said, Deb, there may be a feeling of shame, but don't feel it. There is no judgment here. I have had, questions about the simplest terms, and there is nothing wrong with that at all. If you don't ask it and you don't understand it and you don't know, you may never know. And then again, it comes down to, how can you make a smart decision and get yourself financially ahead if you don't know? You need to know these things. Do not be afraid to ask.
Usually I will ask about final thoughts, but I don't know if you feel you've already given that for you. Because you've definitely said a lot of wonderful things to motivate people to know what they can do in their next steps. But certainly, if you like to add to all the wonderful information you've shared, please do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Deb, I do want to say thank you to you for having me. Finance is, when we hear that word, it can create anxiety. When you hear the word finance or money, and that is something that I want individuals to get away from. It's a complex world, I know, but having a knowledge of financial basics is a key to unlocking doors of opportunities for ourselves and our families. So it's really important that we understand how to make the most out of what we're earning. And in order to do that, we have to understand the fundamentals of financial literacy. So with the information that I'm willing to share and impart, whether it's through any of the workshops that I'm doing through Life to the Fullest, or with Excel No Excuses or business, we want others to feel more confident in the future financial decisions they're making. So do not hesitate to reach out.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me and sharing all this terrific information, and really showing what can be accomplished. I think that's so important for people to see. So I really want to thank you for being able to now take your experiences and, be there to help others and motivate them. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you, Deb. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate you being able to share this message.
Really great that we could have this conversation.
Uh-huh.
So, everyone, I know you enjoyed it. Please make sure to share this and also check in with Sue Ann if you have questions or interested in finding out more about her business offerings and different mentoring coaching. So, once again, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. I want to thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.